Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Batman Arkham Origins New Game Plus video walkthrough. We're about to track the Joker to the Royal Hotel, but before we can do that we have to leave I believe it's the Sionis Industries that we're in right now, the place that is almost taken directly from Arkham City. Obviously it's a little bit different. It's a nice little homage to that later occurrence, just to tie in some continuity between the series. But this being Batman, and there are a lot of encounters in this game, especially when you're traversing across rooftops or going along the streets, so it just wouldn't be Arkham Origins if we weren't putting down some congress of beatdowns on these dudes. But I don't know if you can skip encounters like this, because I get the feeling if you were to go towards the door, it would tell you to secure the area first. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you're walking around the city, just as the standard walk of Batman, whenever an encounter's kicking off and you don't notice it's kicking off, for instance if you're playing without sound or you're not paying attention, you'll notice that Batman goes from his standard power walk, his big manly, just stride where he prostrates across the streets for lack of a better word, like a bat out of hell. And you'll notice he transitions into almost like a karate stance. He goes all kung fu on you and starts pimp walking. And that generally means that there's combat initiated, and even if you don't know it, that's what it means. And he puts both his hands in front of him, and he starts to kind of step a little slower than he normally would. Which also makes me think that it's locking you into battle, because the whole differences of the stances is one of the reasons why, he does the whole conditional cannot leave until fight is complete stuff. But you'll notice there was a transition there, guys. That was me skipping out the flying across from Sionis to this bridge so that we can get that lovely electromagnetic tracker to work. And all we're doing now is we're following the frequency of the electrocutioner's gloves so that we can find this meeting of the assassins. And I've been playing Arkham Origins, post-recording this guide, because I recorded this guide now 2 days ago, and I've been doing the collectibles, I've been doing the side missions, I've been, just enjoying the game as best as I can. I have been a little bit distracted from it, but I've still been giving it, a lot of my attention. I've not played any other games, which is a good example of how much attention I'm paying to it, and the more I play it, the more I notice things about the game that I don't remember being in the older games. For instance, Arkham City is the only thing I can compare this to, because it's the only frame of reference that I have. But I don't remember Arkham City having buildings that you couldn't go on unless they were part of a wall that was the outer perimeter of the place, or the massive, New Year's Eve tower thing, the Wonder Tower or whatever it was called. I remember it doing what it's about to do here, because I thought, could I actually go down here just to see where it led? And it turns you around, and the game has always done that. The series has always done that, where if you were to fly into the distance, the game turned you around. And it was one of the reasons that it was a little bit more tricky getting the flying for so much of a distance. I think it was about 100 yards or something, because you kept getting turned around when you tried to do it and you thought you were going in a good direction. But on this game, there are buildings that you literally can't get on. There are ledges that you cannot use your back claw to grab onto. Ledges that look like you should be able to do that. There are collectibles that are designed around these ledges as well. And I think the reason that they're designed in that way is that it wants you to do a creative dive bomb into, updraft, into going higher than you normally would be able to get them. A good example is the relay towers that you use to access the ability to fast travel between Arkham City or Gotham City and wherever else you can go to in this game. Those towers, you cannot hookshot up to the top of them. It just doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you're Link and if you've got your Song of Storms or anything, you can't get up to the top unless you do these crazy, dive bomb into massive updraft. Or if you use the grapple hook and the boost and you kind of manipulate it in such a way that you can manage to get up. There is no way to directly link yourself up because you just don't get the input for it, and I really don't understand such limitations. It seems very arbitrary and restrictive, and it can sometimes really kill the flow of flying around the city, which, even in Arkham City there were issues with this, but in this game I seem to come to moments where there's nothing to grapple on, And it just, I don't know, I just think it perhaps could have been designed a little bit more with that in mind. But it seems really strange. But the collectibles themselves seem okay. What happens is once you destroy all the relays, or the 10 like crazy satellite dishes that are blocking a signal, it's going to show you where Riddler's informants are, and then you do the same thing you did in Arkham City, where you hold them up, you get the locations of the Riddler trophy things, or on this game it's kind of like memory drives, and then you can find them. But once again, I've come across an interesting like just cognitive dissonance with them, whereas on Arkham City, a lot of the times if you stared at the puzzle long enough, the answer was quite simple. You'd just been overcomplicating the entire thing. Sometimes they were quite tricky, and sometimes they were quite deceptive. Like you'd be looking in an area for ages, and then it'd turn out it was in a sewer system underneath it, and it was a little bit misleading like that. But on this game, I'm quite baffled because there's no guides up yet to show you how to find all the stuff. So I'm just going around, using the map and picking things up and looking into it. And I've come to certain parts of Gotham where there is nothing where there could be this data collectible. Like there's no way to get underground. I'm in detective vision, I've covered all around it, and there's nothing to be seen. And it's really baffling. And on the flip side, there are other collectibles where you go to them and all you literally have to do is press a button and the door panel opens and you can grab the collectible. So there's this really strange, juxtaposition of so obscure and just almost invisible to know what the hell it's supposed to be or where or what you have to do, to so simple not even children would struggle, not even like fetuses would struggle. In fact, I think an amoeba could probably open the damn door and grab the box, because it's so damn obvious, and it's too obvious at first, and it seems very strange. But just little inconsistencies I've been noticing. But the game is still great. There's a lot of good stuff to see here. A lot of people are saying that they think it's better than Arkham City. A lot of people are saying, it's really, really great. There's a nice widespread variation of opinions, and while as I don't think it's better than the old games, I do like it a lot. And I did actually think that Arkham City was disappointed. Disappointed? That's really bad English. Disappointing, sorry. Just because of how much I held Asylum, in my esteem. And I wasn't disappointed at all by this game. I thought it was, it delivered on all fronts that I could expect it to, and most notably the story. I think the story in this game is darker, more interesting than they've probably ever been. I've already mentioned that one of the twists is kind of a... We'll explain it for you, because you probably would have never got there with the evidence we gave you. But aside from that, there are some interesting swings and roundabouts that are not necessarily, the most innovative, but they're still interesting, and some of them are quite emotional too if you're invested in the characters. Which to some people, this is just a game where you get to run around as a giant bat, but to other people who were brought up on a culture of Batman, people like Alfred and people like Bruce Wayne and the Joker, these characters mean a lot more to those folks if they're that way inclined. But this is the Royal Hotel. We're in the basement of it now. We're going to be moving up through this, and this is one of the longer sections of the game. I believe it's going to span for about 3 videos, and then there's going to be a boss fight that sends us out from it and back into Gotham City. And the boss fight is against Bane. And I think Bane is the hardest boss in the game for reasons other than the fight itself. And it's all to do with his running attack. He has wicked tracking on his running attack, which I just don't think it's a very fun move to evade. It's not difficult to evade, but you have to understand how it works. And it's not like everything else in the game where you can press evade and you'll generally get away from it. On this, you really have to know how it functions before you can even begin to not take damage. And the thing that really makes it worse is when he does knock you down, if he knocks you down near a corner or near a wall, or if he's close to pivoting to come back because he repeats the charge a handful of times, he can hit you on the floor. So he can effectively stun lock you on the floor, and there's nothing you can do. There's no button to recover, there's no button to get out of there, there's no button to stop taking damage. He just hits you 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 times. And on the harder difficulties of this game, that can really, really hurt. And when you bear in mind that a lot of the bosses on this game are going to be backed up by lackeys, which is something I especially despise, it's just not really necessary. But we'll talk more about that when we get there. This is a Predator room. In my opinion, I think the Predator rooms on this game are kind of shit. I don't really want to insult Warner Brothers Montreal or anything, but I think the Predator rooms that Rocksteady made were so well thought out and so well designed that there was always an option that you saw someone else do that you never thought to do. And even back on Asylum, when there wasn't that many tools, when you didn't have all these ridiculous takedowns to do, the rooms were designed so finely that they had a flow to them, and the flow made it so that you could do these incredibly, just acrobatic and synchronized attacks on the opponents. And on this game, you can do what I'm doing here. You can literally tie two enemies together and come down and punch them in the face. It's not the most majestic method, and you do generally get noticed. Even if the enemies don't spot you, it still says on the ranking at the end that you were discovered somehow, but it's so effective. So even if these areas were designed, with the same fidelity that I believe the older ones were, and just the same level of trickery and just interesting level design, it wouldn't matter, because the tools on this game allow you to completely subvert that more intellectual side of playing the game, because these rooms in previous Batmans, to me personally, were kind of puzzles as far as just like any other puzzle in a game. It weren't a case of, I have to kill these dudes and this is a combat section. This was, there is a rhythm and a pattern that I can do, that I can articulate in this room, that will enable me to kill all these people effortlessly and do it in an absolutely badass way. And I never really got that impression on this game. I'm curious if anybody had that similar feeling, or if anybody has a converse opinion to that. I just don't think they had the same level of quality. And that doesn't mean that they weren't good, it just means that the ones found before were so good that these ones are lacking in comparison. So much so as what I found. But there is the end of that room. There is me hacking the door and the obligatory level up. There's Batman looking worse for wear. I'll tell you something that's interesting as well. There is a word for having a phobia of holes where holes are not supposed to be. And there's some horrific pictures on Google if you Google this phobia. And I wouldn't say that I have it. I just have a healthy respect for holes not being where they shouldn't be. A good example of this is if you've ever seen a decomposing body, in the wonderful throes of putrefaction. When maggots are going into the body, they make like a honeycomb pattern where, they go in. And not a lot of things get to me because I've been so desensitized from, childhood violence and various other things. And I didn't have the Bible read to me when I was small, so, I don't have good moral values, but nothing used to bug me, and things are starting to bug me now as I get older, and this is one of them. It just gives me shivers. It's like when you think of, a certain type of insect that you don't like, and you get those shivers on your skin, that response you get. It's like that. And I get it for some reason on this game. When Batman's cape is all fucked up, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this pattern that makes it different to the other games, but for some really weird reason, his cape makes me shiver. It's so bizarre. But thank you for watching, guys, and as always, you take care now.